They told him the child wasn't his. They said the test was clear. The numbers were final. The truth, settled. So he walked away. He signed the papers. Closed the door. And buried the past under money, power, and silence. But 25 years later, on a rainy night, inside a hospital corridor that smelled of disinfectant and regret, a billionaire would discover something that shattered everything he believed about blood, destiny, and truth. Because the child he rejected was the only one who could save his life. This is not just a story about wealth. It is a story about pride. About lies told in white coats. And about a truth that waits patiently until the exact moment it must be revealed. Stay with me. What kind of man becomes a billionaire yet loses his own child? What kind of woman carries a secret for decades without ever speaking his name? And what happens when a lie told long ago comes back demanding payment? Was the child truly not his? Or was the truth manipulated for reasons darker than anyone imagined? Tonight, we walk through a story of love denied and destiny delayed. Before he became Victor Hale, the billionaire everyone feared and admired, he was just Victor. A young man with calloused hands, sharp eyes, and dreams bigger than the city he lived in. He believed in hard work, in control, in certainty. Love, to Victor, was something you planned, not something that surprised you. Then he met Elena. She was quiet, observant. The kind of woman who listened more than she spoke. She worked at a small bookstore near Victor's shop. They spoke in glances before words. In smiles before promises. Their love was not loud. But it was real. Until one afternoon, Elena stood before Victor, hands trembling. "I'm pregnant." Victor didn't shout. Didn't smile either. He only asked one question: "Are you sure it's mine?" That question would echo for decades. Victor demanded a DNA test. Not because he hated Elena. But because he trusted numbers more than people. The test came back negative. 99.9% certainty. Victor felt humiliated. Betrayed. Exposed. He believed Elena had ruined him before he even succeeded. He left. No goodbye. No second test. No appeal. Elena watched him walk away and chose silence over begging. She raised the child alone. Can you imagine carrying a child for 9 months, raising that child alone, and the father simply vanishes because of a piece of paper? How would you feel if you were Elena? Would you have fought harder, or would you have let him go? Victor rose. Companies multiplied. Money flowed. Power followed. But children never came. 3 marriages. No heirs. Doctors used words like unlikely, complications, age. Victor ignored it. Until his body betrayed him. Inside a sterile white room that smelled like antiseptic and endings, a doctor looked Victor in the eye and said, "You need a liver transplant." Victor laughed. He could buy one. The doctor didn't smile. Not just any liver. A genetic match gives you the best chance. Victor froze. Genetic. Family. He had none. Or so he thought. Picture this: you've spent your entire life building an empire, controlling every outcome, making every decision with precision. Then suddenly, your body fails you, and the only solution requires the one thing you can't buy: family. How does that feel? What goes through your mind when everything you've built can't save you? Before we go deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Victor hired investigators. Not for business. For blood. Names surfaced. Women remembered. Then a file appeared. Elena Marrow. Son, Daniel Marrow. Age, 25. Daniel worked as a paramedic. No criminal record. No wealth. No knowledge of Victor. Victor stared at the photo. The eyes were his. But memory whispered, the test was negative. Still, doubt crept in. Victor arranged a meeting under false pretenses. Daniel arrived in uniform. Polite. Calm. Unimpressed by money. Victor watched him speak. Move. Laugh. Something in his chest tightened. Daniel mentioned his mother. She raised me alone. Never spoke about my father. Victor felt the weight of decades press on his lungs. He ordered another DNA test. Different lab. Different country. The wait felt longer than any business deal. When the envelope arrived, Victor's hands shook. Think about that moment. 25 years of believing one truth. 25 years of moving forward, building, conquering. And now, holding an envelope that could rewrite your entire existence. Would you open it immediately, or would fear freeze you in place? Result, 99.9% match. Victor staggered back. The world tilted. The child was his. The original test had been falsified. Victor dug deeper. The first lab? Owned by a company his business rival secretly controlled. The rival had loved Elena once. He had erased Victor from the child's life with ink and lies. Victor collapsed into a chair. For the first time, money could not undo time. Can you imagine discovering that your entire life was built on a lie? That someone stole 25 years from you? That you abandoned your own son because someone else wanted revenge? What would rage feel like in that moment? What would regret taste like? Victor told Daniel the truth. Not with pride. With tears. I was wrong. Daniel listened. Then said quietly, you weren't there, but I survived. When asked about the transplant, Daniel didn't hesitate. If my liver saves a life, it should. Victor wept. Here's a question for you, if you were Daniel, could you forgive that easily? Could you give part of your body to save a man who walked away from you before you were even born? What does that say about character? About grace? The transplant succeeded. Victor lived. But something else was reborn. Not wealth. Not legacy. Relationship. Victor found Elena. Older. Stronger. Still dignified. He knelt. I believed a paper over a person. Elena replied, the truth waited. You just weren't ready. Victor rewrote his will. Not to give Daniel everything. But to build together. Hospitals. Scholarships. Truth. They started a foundation that offered free DNA verification services to families in doubt. They funded legal aid for parents wrongfully separated from their children. Victor didn't just give money. He gave time. Presence. The years he had stolen from himself. 6 months after the surgery, Victor and Daniel stood together at the opening of the first clinic. Reporters asked Victor what he had learned. He paused. Looked at his son. And said, I learned that truth doesn't need you to believe it. It simply waits. And when you're finally ready, it reveals itself, not to punish you, but to set you free. How does that sit with you? Do you believe people can truly change, or is redemption just a word we use to feel better about our mistakes? Blood is not proven by paper. Truth is not always immediate. And sometimes, the greatest punishment for pride is living long enough to understand your mistake. What would you have done if you were Victor? Would you have trusted the test or the woman who loved you? Do you believe destiny waits, or do we delay it ourselves? If you were Daniel, could you forgive? Could you save the man who abandoned you? Leave your thoughts in the comments. We want to know how this story made you feel. If this story touched you, subscribe for more powerful stories of truth, regret, and redemption. Because the next story will challenge everything you think you know about justice, loyalty, and the choices that define us. Thank you for watching. And remember, some truths are worth waiting for.